Why did you do that? I don't know what that even is. Go down. Divine Rise. Divine afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Divine afternoon. Divine afternoon. Let me get over here so I can make this shit do what I need it to do. Make that go away. Let's get it. Divine Rise, blessed be to your day. Maybe everything you require to create everything. Okay, cool, we back. Divine Rise, blessed be to your day. Maybe everything you require to create everything that you desire. And let's just do it that way. That makes sense. All right, cool. I don't care about that. Veneration of Character. I've been in the laboratory. Cooking and putting things together. We're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to get into that a little bit after we get towards the end. My magical herbs. I was in the middle of my meditation today. I was in the middle of my meditation. My self-reflection time. When I first woke up, I was in the middle of it. I was like just sitting there and I was loving that feeling. I was in love with the feeling. A lot of thoughts came up. A lot of thoughts, ideas. A lot of these thoughts came up, and I was like, my usual thought process was changing, and I'm noticing how much my thought process has changed. Ideas have changed, how I'm directing myself, the things that I'm jumping into, the things that I'm actually doing, being in that space with myself. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself as I let the hood down. I was thinking about it was a moment of veneration. It was a moment of accepting my character, exalting my character. You're really thinking about, are you still being triggered by the identity, and knowing how to identify if I'm still trying to live out an identity, like I'm still trying to live out. Now, as an example, think about it. You got somebody you know right now that's still trying to live out 1986. They were the championship quarterback in their high school. Or they were the coldest nigga. They were the coldest nigga on the block back of the day. Or they were the baddest bitch. The baddest shorty on the block, something bad. They were always in that category with themselves. And I thought about it. I was like, yo, that's an identity. When we think about how we try to maintain the identity and try to stay locked into that identity, locked into that aspect of self, and you really sit back and you really start thinking about, yo, I'm still trying to hold on to a version of myself, but then you got to be honest with yourself. Are you trying to hold on to that version of yourself, or is that version holding on to you? Are you trying to hold on to that version of yourself, or are you trying to hold on to that version, or is it holding on to you? Remember, when we're going through the process of this, when you're going through the shedding process, you're letting go, you're shedding, you're acknowledging these aspects of yourself, you're accepting these aspects of yourself, you're apologizing to the aspects of yourself. Some of these aspects of you were very necessary. And as I always talk about the aspects of, even if you did it from a negative aspect, it was a negative aspect that you created that identity for. It still served the necessary aspect. It wasn't that it served a necessary faculty. But that doesn't mean what you're triggered by is the accessories that you took to put that together. Like, use an example. I'm no more of a person than I've already been. I was thinking about it. I was going through my self-reflection last night and then into this morning. I was like, everything I've had at a point in time, everything that I'm everything that I'm in the state of having, I've had or I've had. I have or I've had or I'm about to have. I'm in the state of having. Remember, the past, the present, and the future are always in the same continuum. Everything I've ever listened to, everything you ever listened to is in the state of you had the chance to listen to it, you're listening to it now, or you've listened to it before. So when we're looking at this continuum of ourselves inside of that space, it goes into this space of, are you still inside of the space of, I'm doing this for, or I'm doing this as I am? Remember, there's always the differences inside of that space. So one of the things I had to start thinking about with myself was like, what am I doing it for? Am I doing it for something? That means, why can't I just get to that point first? And then you think about the aspect, I'm gonna use an example. I remember sitting in a space with myself and I was like, yo, I'm doing, let's say I'm doing it for, the aspect of, I'm doing it for my mother or something. I'm doing it for my mother. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my nieces. I'm doing it for my nephews. I'm doing it for my nieces, my nephews, my certain people inside of that space. But I really had to really look at myself and like, if I'm doing it for them, if I'm saying that I'm doing it for them, what does that say about why am I not doing it as me? I had to really look and take that thought process. I was like, if I'm doing it for them, like my nieces and nephews, what about my inner child? In reality, I'm doing it for my inner child. I have to change that perspective, because that's how we create this identity. If I'm doing it for something, I'm doing it to basically keep venerating or keep living out this identity or living out this aspect of myself. I can live out those years through them. I can live out my years through my nieces and nephews by getting them all the toys and getting them all the cars and getting them all the shoes that I never got and getting them all the stuff that I never got. I can live out through my mother I've lived out through my mother. I'm living throughout my mother in the aspects of the shit that I'm doing now. Even though I'm trying to say, okay, cool, I'm doing it for this reason, doing it for that reason. All of these reasons sound noble, but the energy, as I always talk about, that energy got to stay in play. That energy got to stay in play. I got to stay a certain way. In order for me to keep doing what I'm doing, everybody got to stay their way. Everyone has to stay the way that they are. So I got to keep going through the aspect. Don't nobody want to change. Don't nobody want to grow. Don't nobody want to embrace themselves. Don't nobody want to become aware. Don't know. Everybody's lost. I got to keep myself in that state of mind to ultimately keep my identity in play. I got to keep myself in that state of mind to keep the identity in play. I've not fully accepted my character. I've fully not accepted me becoming my own main character. I'm used to still in that used to state with myself of the identity. I had to do that to survive. I had to do that to survive. I'm used to surviving. I'm used to not having nothing. I'm used to being inside of that. I'm used to doing these things over and over and over again. So then I got to keep those. This is the way we keep those doors open. Mm-hmm. Let me look at this real quick. Pivot, 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 pivot. I want to look. Yeah. From the experience, from that identity, from this identity crisis was basically, I was thinking about it when I was on my walk after, like, I had to take a walk. I had to understand why I was doing it. We have to understand why we're doing it and why we're putting ourselves in that position. It's because we're afraid of that fall. Everything that I've seen or we deal with on a daily basis is always triggering a fall of something. You saw the Will Smith and Jada shit. It's the fall of Will Smith and his masculinity. You saw the shit with Trump, the fall of Trump, or the fall of Obama, the fall of the Russian superpower, or the fall of something. Everything's talking about the fucking fall. But we get triggered when we think about falling. Oh my God, it's a fall. Everybody's worried about, okay, cool, and let's rise to power, and let's rise into ourselves, and let's do this to ourselves, and let's... What about the fall? What about the fall? What about that fall? What about the descent? What about the descent? Everybody wants to come into this state of talking about their ascension and their rising and their rising and their shifting. And it's a nice thing to say if you're inside of that space and it's authentic. But what about the fall? What about that fall? What about you going through those stages inside of that fall? What about you going through the stages of understanding that there's certain energies that let's use an example. I'll use an example. Me being of the barren energy. I had to accept death before I could even use that energy, as an example. Before I could even use, because I got that energy. I remember when I first tapped into the barren energy. And I remember first coming into that energy and everything was going good. I was like, the identity was, it was kind of like a symbiote. We'll use the Venom reference. It was literally, I was at my job. I was working. I was getting a lot of shit in my space. And yeah, everything's coming in. But I noticed that the longer that I stayed in that space, the harder it was for me to maintain certain impulses. The harder it was for me to maintain rationalizing my impulses. The harder it was for me to maintain rationalizing and bringing logic and reason to a lot of shit that was happening inside of my life. And I was fighting it. I'm fighting it. I'm like, no, all I got to do is work a little bit more. All I got to do is this, and all I got to do is this, and all I got to do is this. I was fighting the fall instead of allowing myself to fall, allowing myself to descend. I was trying to stay within the lights of myself. I was still trying to keep myself in a certain space, in a certain mindset. But I'm not realizing it. I'm fighting the fall. I'm trying to rise. I'm trying to pick up everybody around me, make everybody good around me. I'm keep saying to myself, I know what it's like to go through what you're going through, knowing damn well I really didn't. It just sounds good. I was living by a script based on that identity of to say that to people, like, I know what it's like to go through what you're going through, knowing damn well I didn't know what the fuck it was like. I knew the emotions. I knew of the emotions. I knew of the emotions. I knew of the thoughts. I knew of the feelings. But the only way that I could sit there and really identify with it was first identifying myself. This is when we go into the aspects of everybody gonna trigger you. Ain't nobody triggering you. They're necessary parts of your game plan. You're the only one that doesn't know what the fuck your game plan is. You running around, I'm gonna do this. Okay, cool. Bet. All right, cool. You can do that. But what about the fall? But what about the fall? What about that fall? What about you? What about the fall? See, a lot of times we want to go into the space for myself. I was really looking at myself. And I was like, yo, I'm trying to do all of these things for something. Even into the aspects of me building the company, building my platform, building my brand. I had to change my thought process on I'm doing this for something. Because as long as I was sitting there doing it for something, the identities or those aspects of myself that I did not yet own, those would run the show. Those identities will run the show. The same way, use an example. The same way you sit here, and if let's say you go through a 2-week or 3-week fast, or you go to the gym, you go work out, you go get that new job or whatever, and you start getting certain things from that job. And we talked about this last week. You start getting things from that job. But the moment that the job is not giving you what you want, now the job ain't shit. Now the relationship ain't shit. And as long as, because you were stuck on that stimulation. I was always stuck on the stimulation. I was always stuck on that dopamine hit. That release of that them dopamines in my system of like, ooh, yeah, they need me to come to work. They need me to do this. They need me. They need me. They need me. They want me. They want me. They need me. So when they didn't want me or they didn't need me, let me hang this. When they didn't want me, when they didn't need me, when I became expendable as a resource, when I became expendable, I could always say it was because of them, that, or the third to the reason why I'm not doing what I want. I'm not in the space where I want to be at now. I could always go back and revert. I always had a point of reversion. Whenever I was done playing, similar to like, think about when you were a kid and you went outside and you were playing, and then when it became nighttime outside, your ass would revert to go back. You would revert to going back inside. It's bright as fuck outside. There ain't no light. It's dark outside. I can play outside. But the moment that you were hungry, you reverted back to that. Whatever identity you could have been outside playing cops and robbers. You could have been on the block. You could have been anywhere. But the moment you got hungry, you would revert. The moment you got tired, you revert. The moment that you have nothing else to feed that impulse, or you need to refeed that identity, you're going to revert. The moment that you go into that space with yourself, you're like, man, okay, you'll revert. The moment that some shit ain't working out and going out the way that you want it to go, you'll go back and revert. Because you're not ready to venerate that character, venerate that identity and make it a part of your character. I've talked about the aspects of me boxing. I've talked about my fighting, me boxing, all the things that I've done in lectures. And I remember I had a session on Saturday, and I was talking to the brother, and we were going back. We had a moment we were talking about we were going back and forth with the war stories. And I was like, you have to exalt that character. I had to exalt my character or my identity of being in being inside of this, being in the streets. I had to exalt that character and make everything, like, use an example. I don't know if you ever heard that shit on fucking but they'd be like, if you can organize a gang, if you can organize people in the streets, you can organize a community, you can do this, you can do that, you can organize this. If you're good at making money, then you can own a business or things of that nature. Anything of that nature. But I wasn't ready to let go of it was just changing one identity to another. It was always just me changing one identity to another. Because I felt in some way, shape, or form, I needed that in my environment. I needed that to validate me. I needed people around me that were I needed motherfuckers around me that were lesser than, so I could validate my own existence. That's the identity. That's the identity. The craziest part about thinking about if you can do this in the streets and you can do this. I remember them coming to my high school and saying that shit to me. And I remember they brought all of the gang members and all of the bad kids into the auditorium in my high school. And I remember they giving us that whole speech. And I remember sitting there like, okay. And naturally, I created identities of it. I created different identities that fitted. I created the narrative. And I started feeding off of seeing certain niggas do certain shit inside of the space. Like, so now instead of me being, you'll see it just keeps repeating itself. Like, use an example. Use 50 Cent as an example. 50 Cent went from on the streets, on the block, to being a rapper, to now this motherfucker is producing Power, Book of Kane. He's producing all of these new narratives. He's producing the same narratives. The reason that he's so successful in doing what he's doing, and he said it before, he was like, I'm still a rapper. Like, how can you say and do everything that you're doing but not get in trouble for what you're saying? You're like, I'm a rapper. I'm a rapper. I'm a rapper. I'm a rapper. As long as I say that I'm a rapper, the shit's okay. I can say whatever I want. I can beef with whatever I want. I can post anything I want. I can do anything that I want. I can do anything that I want because I'm a rapper. Ain't nobody gonna really go look at a rapper. That's literally owning a part of his character. That's literally taking the identity and making it a part of his character. When you look at the aspects, you look at Kanye West. Motherfuckers said the nigga's crazy and all this other shit. But ultimately, you can just say, oh, he's a crazy-ass rapper. He was a producer. The things that everybody want to keep bringing up, he ain't the same without his mama. All these other aspects allow him to feed his overall character. All that shit allows him to feed his overall character. Whatever the fuck they want to say that he is, it don't matter because he's not reacting to it. He can respond through it. He responds through it. There's a difference. When you're sitting in the aspects of your authentic character, you're going from the state of reacting to it and actually responding through it. It's kind of like when motherfuckers say, oh, the best revenge is success. The best revenge would be success. Because I'm no longer reacting to it, I'm responding through it. So everything that's coming into your space right now, when you actually make these actual thoughts, and you're like, man, my life should have been this way 4 years ago. My life could have been this way 6 years ago if I did this. And my life could have been like this if I did this. And if I did this and I did this. And then you shoot out all of these different streams or access all of these different streams through that victim mentality. So now you got to see somebody being a victim inside of that space. So now you look at Michael Jordan selling shoes. You now see him as an example as a victim in that space. When you looking at motherfuckers, they show you a hood classic movie on Prime Video every fucking day. And you looking at motherfuckers being victims. You think you have to sacrifice you think you got to sacrifice aspects of yourself. It's not that you're sitting there thinking you got to sacrifice aspects of yourself. You are reflecting or you're reacting to you've sacrificed aspects of yourself. There's fragments of you that you have not pulled in. There's fragments of yourself that you have not pulled in. You have not retrieved those fragments of yourself. You haven't made yourself whole yet. That's why that impulse becomes your feeling. That impulse becomes how you see. That impulse becomes how you feel. That impulse becomes one of the senses. So you can make shit real. So shit can be real. Or i.e. you looking at shit as an illusion. So when you get getting this, like, that's how motherfuckers get stuck on. Oh my God, all this is an illusion. We stuck in the Matrix. Okay. Okay. We're stuck in the matrix. Okay. We stuck in the matrix. We're oppressed. They're stopping us. They won't let us be great. They won't let us do this, this, and this. They won't let us do this for. They won't let us do this for our people. They won't do this, for that. All of that to avoid that I am. All of that to avoid the am, what I am. All of this to avoid the what I am. All of this to avoid that aspect of myself that I'm not ready to deal with. All these theatrics how many times have you went through a whole theatric play, or you had a homeboy or a homegirl that went through a whole theatrical play with their life and everything they were doing? They went through this dramatic theatrics just to hide some shit. Like literally, like I remember I've had homeboys that literally would hit me and be like, yo, if my girl called, let's say I was with you, and I look at my phone and I'd be like, what? And I damn near every time I said, I'd be like, it's kind of impossible for you to be with me because I'm out of town. I'm out of town. Or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or I'm doing this. This was one of my ongoing aspects. I was always doing something. I was always doing some shit. Always into something, always doing something, carrying on this narrative. But then I thought about it. I'm always never available. I was always never available. And the only way you could access me was, nigga, I'm always at work, or I'm always doing this, or I'm always with this. It was always this always aspect. And then I had to really think about it. It served me a good purpose. It kept me out of a lot of things. It kept me from doing a lot of things. But I had to understand the other side of that. Because the only reason that I could always say I'm always doing something, I'm always up to something, is because I wanted to say, because if I wasn't doing this, then I'd be doing that. So the only thing stopping me from doing something was the aspect of, because I'm doing this. But what if I wasn't? What if I'm not doing that? This became a question. It's like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore. So if I'm not doing this anymore, then what am I doing? I was living in those extremes. My identity was to always be doing something. My identity was always to be doing something to get something. See, a lot of times we don't really think about how you ride off the impulse of always riding around, always flying around, always doing all of these things and never giving yourself enough the aptitudes of rest. What you're building onto yourself, how you building this shit onto your body. Especially for us as being as men, like just being in the aspects of that, being stuck in that manosphere, or you trying to be an alpha, or you trying to aspire to be an alpha. I'm the alpha mindset. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to protect everybody. I'm willing to do this. And I talked about this in a class. As long as I felt the need to always do something, always be protecting something, in that same space, I allowed myself to unconsciously create reasons for protection. I had to create reasons. In order for me to be the protector, I had to have a reason to protect. So if there was no reason to protect, I had to go find a reason to protect. I had to find a reason to provide. I had to create a reason to share, not to gain information. I had to find a reason to do this. I'm not balanced. I'm not just being. I'm not accepting anything. I'm acknowledging that I need to provide, and then on the other end of that, I'm apologizing when I can't provide. But I'm not accepting the reason why I couldn't provide. I'm not accepting the reason I couldn't protect. I couldn't accept the reason that I couldn't protect certain people is because the shit that you going through is some shit that I've honestly never even experienced or avoiding the fall. Every single day it was like more and more of me avoiding the fall. I would avoid the decline. I had to stay in this state of, I had to have this state of mind in my mindset to like, I'm always doing something for something. I couldn't do it just simply as I am. The things that I do now, like when I woke up this morning, for the example, woke up this grand, beautiful rising, and I sat there. Actually, let's go back to Monday. Let's scale back 2 days. Or let's go back to the moon day. I was sitting there Monday, and I was like, all right, cool, I gotta get some candles. It's time for me to do some cleansing. Wayne got me some candles. Got the herbs. I already had the herbs and the oils. Lit up my candles. I did my sigils, burnt my sigils, all my good stuff. And then I'm sitting there winding down in the living room. And I go in my room. My altar, I got this altar in my room. I'm laying in my bed, and like my energy is on fucking 10. My energy was on fucking 10. Like I was restless as fuck. I'm laughing. I'm all giggly and shit. I'm like, why the fuck can I rest? Why can't I sit the fuck down? Why can't I lay the fuck down? Before that moment, after when I went in my room and I did everything and set everything up, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm finishing typing up some paperwork, going through some emails and shit, I feel this warm sensation in my heart area. Like I felt the releasing and the taking in. I felt the releasing and the taking in. When I laid down, I had to meditate. I had to meditate for at least, I had to sit and meditate for an hour and a half. About an hour, hour and 30 minutes. Before I could actually lay down. Before I actually be like, okay, now I can lay down. Woke up yesterday, engaged, whole new thought process, ideas, everything flowing through. I pulled some cards, looked at the cards, and I'm sitting here looking at the cards, and I'm glancing over them. All right, cool, going about my day. Going throughout my day. Lay down, wake up this morning. Yesterday, if you've seen my reel, you seen that reel, I did that meditation. I was in my full shadow form. I ain't never showed my shadow form before. I was in my shadow form, sitting in my noob cyborg form. I was sitting in my noob cyborg form, all black, just sitting there. And I said, take a moment, breathe. Take three breaths, followed by 4 breaths, holding each breath for 10 seconds, went through the whole process. I ain't never posted that, but I ain't never posted that before. But I posted it. Then I did a video after it about being grateful. It's on my TikTok. About being grateful for where you are at. Until you're grateful for where you're at, you can't go anywhere forward. And then I'm looking at today. Today when I woke up. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I had a nice long conversation. And I was laughing. I was laughing the entire time. Teary-eyed, cried a little tears came out. And I'm sitting there in that space, releasing things. I'm noticing and I'm really sitting in the space of I'm doing this now. And it's not based on the reason that I'm not getting the feeling of the impulse or the, ooh, it should be this way or it should be that way is because I am that way. I am that way. I'm not doing things for, I'm doing things as I am. When you're going through this space, when you're coming into this aspect with yourself and your healing, this is coming to the under end of the shift. What I've noticed is a lot of times we think about the shift, and if you rock with me before, you understand what I talked about. You got to stop jumping at the infatuation and ride through it, ride that wave. Whatever that wave brings up, you must ride through. That's what I'm doing now. Every time I hear someone talk about a shift, or I hear someone talk about a full moon ritual or things of that nature, it's like, instead of me being triggered to make a post like, what are you doing before the ritual? What are you doing during the ritual? You know, you start, what were you doing before the ritual? Things of that nature. For me now, it's like, half of the time, I don't even realize that there's a full moon. I don't realize that it's a sunspot, or I don't notice a lot of shit. Because I don't notice these things. It's not that I'm no longer aware, it's that I am that. It's a part of my work. What would be remember I talked about last week, owning the result. Can you own the result of your work? That if some shit happens, if you tune into TV and there's a fucking war overseas, can you own that the fact that the work you've been doing, can you maximize yourself and take yourself to the next level and say that, nigga, I did that. I am part of that. I am of that reason. I'm of the reason that actually happened. Can you own it to that level? Can you are you venerating the aspects of your character? Or are you still stuck on being, man, they out here, they need to be teaching our kids this and doing this, and this. When are you going to sit there inside of that space with yourself, and all the times that you sit here talking about that happening, when are you going to start doing it? When are you going to start actually creating a curriculum? Instead of always talking about creating a curriculum. When are you going to create the book? Instead of always talking about I don't see no books based on this. And I'm saying all this from a transparent space, because I was one of the motherfuckers that would look and be like, man, I ain't never seen a book on this, and I ain't never heard no one talking about this, and I ain't never seen this, and I ain't never heard this. I ain't never felt nothing like this. And when I do get it, I don't know what to do with it. It was partially because of the reason, because I did not create that inside of my space yet. Wait for the plane to go over. For example, we'll talk about it now. For example, I'm finishing the first ebook. I'm finishing my first ebook that is called 30 States. If you saw the picture on my page, 30 States of Deprivation, Reprogramming the Shadow. I literally remember the first time I actually stepped into doing the beginning aspects of my shadow work. And I remember going through I've talked about me doing my fast. I did a 30-day fast. 30-day fast and detox during the first leg of my shadow work. The first leg of my shadow work. Did a whole 30-day fast. I remember going through the entire process of the 30-day fast. Self-discovery, self-forgiveness, So I went through self-discovery, self-forgiveness. Now I went through the aspects of self-assuring. the self-assurance, the self-reassuring, the self-building, the rebuilding myself. That was the first leg. And I was sitting there the other day. I was about to go take a shower and shit. And I'm sitting there, and as a genius, I talked to myself. And I was sitting there getting ready to hop in the shower, and I'm having an interview with myself. I'm having this interview, like I'm always having constant interviews inside of my head. It's part of my regimen through the day. I'm having an interview, and the lady that was in my mind that was doing the interview was asking me about my book. And I was like, yeah, I have a number of ebooks out now. I've been putting out ebooks. My first ebook was the aspects of a 30-day fast. I put out another ebook that was about 21-day reprogramming regimen. I put out another ebook about this, and I put out another book about this. Yesterday, when I was sitting there during my self-reflection, I'm having a whole fucking interview with myself. And I'm talking about the craziest part about these books that everybody's seeing now, that you're now seeing this main book that I'm selling the hard copy, is that book came before all the ebooks. And I'm going through the conversation in my mind. This book right here, the hard copy, the hard book that I actually released to be sold, not as an ebook, it came before all of the ebooks. Everybody that saw me at that point in time, they all read parts of that book, but so they knew that book came before that. And I'm sitting here and I pause with myself, and I'm like, how am I able to have this conversation? The amazement of that conversation, the feeling of that conversation was so real. The feeling of the conversation, the anxiety would kick in. So I took the anxiety as my looking at myself having that conversation. And then as I own the anxiety aspect of that conversation, for example, of how I would present myself, I automatically went back and I said, without skipping a beat, I was like, for example, everybody's talking about wearing everybody's labels and doing all this shit. Everything y'all see me sitting up here on this stage with is occult alchemy. Everything you see me rocking right now is occult alchemy. From my shirt to my shoes to these sweatpants to this bomb ass fucking hat to these bomb ass fucking crown on my head. All this shit's occult alchemy. My clothing. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, going through this new script in my mind, hitting all of these points. Literally having the conversation, not as I'm going there, not as I'm wishing to be there, but I'm there. So in the current space, all of the things and the tools that I need to build that are here. I can now identify if the tools are in my present or if the tools are a part of my past. Am I pulling from the past aspects of myself, trying to validate by invalidating, or am I bringing myself into the present, which is the aspects of confirmation? Am I working in the spirit? You're already spiritual. I'm working in the spirit. All day, every day I work in the spirit. It isn't something that I gotta go into. It isn't something that I gotta do all this stuff to get into it. I'm already working inside of the spirit. Everything that I do is gonna be from this. Everything I'm gonna do, and I've broken this down, everything I'm gonna do is gonna come from that gamma state. That gamma state. Everything that I'm doing is from the gamma state. That gamma wave. That's the wave of teaching, learning, concentration, teaching, learning, all of those aspects in the gamma wave state. So naturally, as I'm sitting in that space, sitting in that gamma state, focusing on that gamma state, that means I'm in that aspect, I'm in that high frequency of my thoughts, a high frequency set of thoughts. I can look at my anxiety rising up, which is anxiety, the beta wave. Yeah, we don't get very scientific. The beta wave, there's 3 waves in the beta wave. There's the anxiety in high arousal. There's the externalization in that aspect of that, the externalized effects. And then there's the internalization and the reflection. So now I can drop down. When I had the conversation talking about everything I'm wearing is a Code Alchemy, or it's my clothing line, my clothing brand, which is the store's open, a Code Alchemy, you dig what I'm saying? I could go through those waves. And now I can look at my internal reflection and my self-reflection, and I have a point in that wave that I can now I'm producing from. So I can go deeper into it. Now I'm alert, the alpha wave, that alert wave, the alertness, the alert when I'm building the aspects of myself. Then I can automatically go into that theta wave. So I'm openly programming myself. Being open and aware, I'm openly programming, I'm programming the space. I'm programming to see the space as what it is. And at the same time, I'm looking at it for what is, I'm looking at it as what it is, as the basis or the foundation for where I'm heading to. So now I'm setting my intention in that space. And then when I get to that delta wave, that's the healing, that's the restoring property. So now I'm looking at what I have to restore. I'm looking at those aspects. And I did all of that shit last night. I woke up this morning and I went through the process, and I remember reading the cards I pulled for myself. The cards that I pulled was context, repetition, and reaction. Those are the 3 cards I pulled off top in my Oracle deck that I pulled off top. And I'm reading these cards and I'm like, what am I repeating? What am I reacting to? In what context am I repeating actions? Because there's nothing wrong with repeating an action as long as there's a deeper lesson. And what am I reacting to that I need to respond to? So then I'm sitting there with myself and like, okay, cool. I've already programmed the prompt, my new prompt. Here's my new prompt. I'm making this much and this much, and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And I'm doing it as this so I can put this, and this can come into play. And I'm looking at my state. I'm literally in a state of veneration of my character. I'm in a state of venerating this character. That means overall, I've exalted every aspect of myself to the next level with myself. And it's no longer based on attraction. It's truly sitting in that space of alignment. So now I'm in a whole new set of, because I'm thinking about the conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, yo, I never had that conversation before. I've never had this conversation to this level. I've never had this type of conversation to this level. Whether it be on the personal narrative, whether it be on the business narrative, whether it be on whatever narrative that it holds. I haven't had that type of conversation before. Not that in depth, not in this state of just being inside of that space and being my true self, not having an expectation, not holding myself to this wild ass thought process. And I'm sitting there thinking as I'm looking over, I'm like, damn, I'm no longer who I used to be. All the doors, windows, spaces that of something that I used to be are no longer available to me. All the ways that I would use to exist are no longer available to me. And at first, I'm sitting there trying to fight that shit like, nah, I'm going to leave that door open. I'm going to leave this door open. I'm going to leave this open. just in case. But I'm sitting there in the current space and I'm like, why? If you haven't picked up, if you have not listened to, like, and I'm going to go into the aspects of this book. Napoleon Hill, if you've not read any Napoleon Hill's books, the Think and Grow Rich, I didn't listen to that book. I didn't read that book. I haven't picked up that book. I didn't look at that fucking book. I didn't think about that damn book. I've seen the cover. I've seen the book. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get that book and add it to the library and all that shit. When I first started listening to that book last week, half of the things that were said inside of that book, that are inside of that book, I've already been doing. So when I really started listening to the book, instead of me trying to validate where I am, it's confirming where I am. It follows in that same line. I'm confirming where I am. So now I can define. I can attune things. See, when you're sitting in that space and you're not used to being where you're at, you're not confident about where you're at. You're not confident about speaking. You're not confident about being in a certain space. You try to find something to keep yourself in a state of that identity so you can validate if it doesn't work. Oh, it didn't work because it is. It didn't work because you didn't have a plan. It didn't work because the goal that you set was not your goal was not a goal. It was just to stay within a certain pattern with yourself. I had patterns that were based on me staying a certain way. That means after a whole fucking year at the gym, use that. I remember the whole year of me being at the fucking gym. And working out. And buying all the workout gear and grabbing all the CMOS. And I actually got to make an order for CMOS. Buying all the supplements and getting all the CMOS. After a whole year being at the gym. I have nothing to build on it with. Other than me going to the gym. This is the first time me going to the gym. I have nothing. This is at a point where I was first time going to the gym. I had nothing to build upon with that shit. I had nothing to build upon with me going to the gym. Other than I was working out. And I was feeling good. And I was getting my muscles. I was getting in shape and all of that shit. This year, or last year, if you looked at my TikTok, when I actually started, like, when I was going on my runs during the day, I was doing my daily runs, and I would do a video after I do the run. I do a video before I do the run, then I do another video, then I upload the video, so I'll post it everywhere. I didn't realize that because there was no impulse, that was a part of the process. Because I did that shit, because when I did that, that was during the time where most of my increase, oh shit, go back. Where most of my increase in building up my TikTok. See, when you're not looking for the impulse, you can steadily build and steadily create. When I'm sitting in this gamma state with myself, the highest point in the wave point, when I'm sitting inside of this wave point, this is the middle point this is the equivalent to when you look at Baphomet or Shiva or Ganesh or Kali, or you look at a deity actually standing on the earth or beating up the earth or whatever. This is that state. This is that state of Buddha being in that state. This is that state of being inside of that state of true actual aspects of being in that wholeness with yourself. See, I didn't realize it because I was still looking at it I was trying to make it look a certain way. Oh my God, in order for me to be that, I gotta have on 962 different fucking chains, 962 rings. I gotta look the part. I gotta look the part for what? As long as I can put a 4 after that shit, as long as I can I had to look the part for, as long as I can put a 4 after that, I'm going to always never reach the point that I'm trying to get to. As long as I'm doing this for something, I'm never going to achieve that goal. I'm never going to achieve that goal. As long as I was sitting there inside of the space, I'm doing this for my nieces and my nephews, I would never achieve the goal. Because the ultimate goal should have been for me was I'm doing this as I'm learning from my niece and my nephews, and the life that the shit that they're going through, the things that they're going through are in reflection of what I was going through. And I don't want them to go through those things. So me doing it for them is the same thing as my parents saying, I'm doing this for your own good. I'm doing this for this, and I'm doing this for that. I'm still living inside of that. I'm still living inside of that loop. I'm doing this for a reason, instead of doing it as my purpose. See how that different? You change the, it's kind of like saying you gotta wake up for work versus I get to wake up for work. I get to wake up rather than I gotta wake up. Because if I gotta wake up, there gotta be a reason for me not to wake up. If I'm doing it for something, there gotta be a reason for me not to do it. There always has to be an opposition. I'm used to pushing against shit. I was always used to pushing against things. I wasn't used to being in that space, owning that position, because I wasn't in the state of I did not become that of owning that position. I couldn't see myself as being sinister. I couldn't see myself as, I could not understand something as simple as that is simple aspect. I could not understand that every fucking bank basically got a bunch of life insurance policies inside of that bitch. And that's how they use the money, because everything that I heard before that, when it was going to the States, I remember the first time I heard about the infinite banking system, family trust, business trust, all of these new variables that I'm studying now. I couldn't see those things or use them or implement them because they were still sinister in my mind. And the only examples of negatives in my mind were how my parents use money, how my grandparents use money, how my aunts and uncles use money, how they were always looking for the quick fix and all of the quick aspects. So naturally, from my own space, that's what I'm using in my space. Now, all the information that I'm trying to take in is for the quick fix. It's to prove that we can do it another way. It's always for me to prove I can do it another way. Why don't I just do it? Why don't I just study it? Why can't I just sit here and study it? Why does it have to be a reason that I'm studying this? Why does it have to be the reason that I'm studying this, or the reason I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing is for to one up the oppressor? Why do I have to keep saying that? Because without it, I don't have any pressure. I don't know how to be pressure. I don't know how to be chaos. I don't know how to be chaos other than saying, oh yeah, I'm chaos, so because I can fight, or I can throw hands, or I can do shit of that nature. Why can't I just sit there in that space with myself and be like, nigga, I'm doing this just cause? Do you know how easy some shit to flow? You ain't used to that flow. Hello, big ass goddamn pigeon. That is you never realize how big pigeons are until you actually like sit back and see it. You never notice how big something is until it's outside of the area where you're used to seeing it. Thank you, Spirit. Yeah, Spirit gave me that answer right there. You don't know what something is until you see it outside of its natural space. You don't even see how mundane a thought process inside of your mind is until you take it outside of that fucking space. Because you don't know what to do without that shit. I had to really, when you're really thinking about your life and how you keep doing things and the reason you ain't getting to where you need to get to and I can't get to where I want to get to is because you can't see yourself outside of that space. Seeing yourself as anything more than what the fuck you are right now scares the shit out of you. If you cannot create an identity to fashion with it, if you cannot fashion an identity or fathom an identity, you will not step outside of your comfort zone. You will not make the jump. One of the biggest things that I'm telling I've actually told a lot of my clients, one of my favorite things to tell my clients is, what the fuck is traditional? What the fuck is traditional? What is this shit you keep trying to get back to? I'm just trying to get back to me. I'm just trying to get back to me. I'm just trying to get back on my girl. You always trying to get back to something. What are you getting back to? If you, in that same sentence, if I say I'm trying to get back to me, I'm trying to get back to me being natural. In my entire existence, in this aspects of my life and my cycles down here, it's never been natural. What was natural to me? I'm trying to get back to avoid, or I'm trying to go forward to avoid. Either way, you're still ignoring that absolute that's in the center. That your life was not normal, but your life was normal. You normalized it. The same way you fighting against my life wasn't normal because of this, and this happened to me, and this, and this happened to me. You normalize that shit. Because that's what you keep bringing into your space. That's what you keep bringing up. We only bring up what we've normalized. You only bring up what you've normalized. But the aspect of changing the conversation, allowing myself to be triggered, that's how I can normalize the shit. Oh my God, it's racism, white supremacy. Where in me do I feel inferior? Where inside of me do I feel suppressed? Where in me, as I am, do I feel suppressed? Do I feel oppressed? Those are the questions that I ask myself. I don't feel oppressed. I don't feel suppressed. I don't feel that I can. There's a difference between saying what you want and saying what the fuck you can. Big ass difference between doing what you want and doing what you can. Doing what you want is the actual aspects of discipline to yourself, discipline to your day. Doing what you can is simply waking up, hoping that you got a job in the morning. Doing what you can is hoping that you can wake up and go to your job in the morning, hoping that you can wake up and take your kids over here or take them over here. See how you create reasons to do what you want or do what you can? I'm doing what I can. I'm doing what I can. So you stuck in that lack mentality. It always going to lead back to lack. I do exactly what I want when I want to. And it's a lot of responsibility sitting in that space of doing what I want when I want to. The fact that I can come outside, blow my herbs. After I'm done with this live, go back in and finish doing my typing and putting together the stuff for my class. I got a class I'm teaching on Saturday. Write up the treatment for the podcast when I start doing the podcast next month. Finish writing up this ebook for the 30 Days of Deprivation, Reprogramming the Shadow. doing what I want. And I'm grateful for the space that I'm able to do it in. I'm grateful for the space that I'm able to do it in. Instead of me always seeking something to make my identity shine. See, I couldn't do this over there because it don't matter what the fuck you do, say, or act and how you act. Until you walk up in front of your mom's, if she is still present, until you can walk up in front of your mom's and tell your mom that you are a god and explain to your mom in the most simplest of terms how you are a god without trying to invalidate something else, you still got work to do. Whatever her response will be is her response. I accept her response one way or the other. Because I'll give an example. Every time that my mom sees me, and she'll be like, you used to wear glasses. As an example, you used to wear glasses. My mom would say that every time she get a chance. She see me. You used to wear glasses. Now you can read the fine print. Now you can do this, this, and this. You had that LASIK surgery. But like, no. I can tell you what I did. I was sun gazing, changed my eating habits, started drinking a lot more water. I'll go down the list of the stuff that I would do, and I watch her eyes squint up because she's trying to process it. It's okay. We'll get back to it. Because I'm not trying to prove to her anything past her comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Going into that space with yourself, as you really starting to sit, as I really sit here with myself and I really start to think of the things that I'm doing, I'm not doing it for a reason. I'm not doing it to, so as I do it, it's like literally setting it and allowing it to do what it needs to do. Everything that I'm doing now is based on the term of I'm doing it and I'm allowing it to set. I'm allowing it to do its work. I'm allowing it to populate as it needs to populate. I'm not doing it from a space of this has to happen by this time because I'm not stuck within that aspect. Gamma state. I'm actually going to make a shirt like that. Got some design ideas. Everything that I'm doing is going to bring me exactly what I need as I need it. Every conversation I have is a conversation that's necessary. So now naturally, if I state that every conversation that I have is necessary, that means every conversation that's first going to come up are going to be the unnecessary conversations or the conversations that are going to trigger me, the conversations that are going to make me upset, make me feel some type of way, make me feel anxious, make me feel angry, make me feel something, so I can identify that is not a necessary conversation for me to have. But I can own it, but like that was a necessary conversation because without that conversation, I cannot identify that aspect that's going on within me that I'm not dealing with. Instead of me spending 28 minutes, 29 minutes, 27 minutes saying something, instead of me spending the 28 and 29 minutes of saying Earth is ghetto, I can't wait to leave. Let me sit with that. I've never said Earth is ghetto. I'm never going to say Earth is ghetto to anybody. I mean, that's to each his own. To each his own. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, Earth is ghetto. Fuck, it sounds stupid. It doesn't sound comparable to me. It doesn't sit with me. Why would I say Earth? All I'm doing is exercising that I still have escapism issues. I have an escapism wound. I got a wound that's present. I can't sit here and say like, oh my God, women out here is this, this, and this, and this, this, and this. I don't know about most motherfuckers, but most of the women that are in my life or have come into my life as of late, they are on the level that level that is an aspect of me. So it's like, so now I'm looking at my mindset. It's like, yo, like, why would I say that women ain't shit and all this shit of that nature? Niggas ain't shit. Niggas keep doing this. Bitches keep doing this. Motherfuckers keep doing this. And that shit don't exist for me anymore. It doesn't come up on my, because every motherfucker I have a conversation with is like, okay, cool. Because I'm owning my character. I'm owning my roles. Whatever role I need to play inside of that position inside somebody's head, I'm going to play that role. And as that role plays out, if there's triggers inside of that role, I need to own those triggers. I'm not, like, even to the point of me saying, some shit like, hey, lost my whole train of thought. Wait, let me come back. Even me sitting at a point with myself of saying, it'll come back to me. But sitting in that space with yourself, as you start owning this character, you're the main character. That's what I was going to say. Everything that I'm doing now, I'm in the mindset of, I've had it, I'm having it, or I'm going to have it. It's already in play. There's shit that I can go back to. I'll use an example. I remember I'm now studying the aspects of the infinite banking system, the in-home banking, the family trust, and all of those trust aspects. I heard about that shit back in like fucking the early fucking 2000s when I was in fucking high school. And the way that I heard about it was through the aspects of, whenever you watch the movie and you see the trust fund babies, and they always say trust fund babies, and that motherfucker living off his daddy trust and shit. And I'm like, I'm using that as an invalidation. My reason for not tapping into my wealth, tapping into that stream, ultimately was because I'm sitting there in a space where I was like, when I was growing up, the only time I heard trust fund was like to overprivileged people and people that were overly privileged. And so my whole definition was privilege was bad. Privilege is bad. You shouldn't be privileged. You shouldn't be honored. You shouldn't be in gratitude for somebody doing that work so you can continue it on. So I'm sitting there in the space, I'm looking at myself now like, I did that shit. I was the one that shut myself down from that information. Even though I wasn't the one that administered it, I was the one that carried that shit forward. And every one of my actions was based on me carrying that shit forward. It was always carrying it forward to maintain the identity that I was that identity that I was locked in. So when I came to the other end, hello, you're conscious, you're aware, you're awake. I'm looking at the same escapism that I used when I was unaware of myself, not taking responsibility, not taking accountability for myself, was the same fucking escapism that I was using to take in information of, I need to live off the grid, and I need to go run over here, and we need to go do this, and we need to go do this. I'm doing the same fucking shit. Chasing the feeling. I'm chasing the feeling. I'm chasing the impulse. I'm building an identity based on the impulse. So now if I go on a camping trip, I'll take pictures of myself taking a camping trip, and I'll be like, off the grid. Nigga, I'm on a camping trip. You gotta be careful. There's motherfuckers out here scamming people all the fucking time and telling people all this other shit, yeah. But we're going from the space of ultimate ownership. I know that there's scammers. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, niggas out here scamming people. How does a scammer work? Ask that question to yourself. How does a scammer work? A scammer works based on somebody else's lack. A scammer can only be prevalent inside of my life if I'm lacking something. That's the only way a scammer can work. That's the only way psychologically a scammer can be present inside of my life. Can show up and show out in my life. Is if I am in some way, shape, or form on one level lacking, on another level going through my own set of I'm scamming myself or underhanding myself in some shape or form. So instead of me reacting to it, in the opening of this live, I was talking about now I'm responding to it. I'm responding through it. And looking at where I scammed myself, where I cut myself short, where I cut myself short, where I scammed myself, where I was moving off a raw emotion, where I was moving off a certain narrative that was detrimental to where I'm at now. Let the plane go over. So I can ultimately own my character. So I can ultimately own where the fuck I'm at. So I can ultimately sit inside of the space and be like, yeah, I'm doing what I need to be doing. So now when I enter a new phase when I enter these new phases, I'm not entering these phases based on holding something in. I'm not holding anything in when I go into a new phase. I'm not sitting there looking at somebody like, yep, they're gonna be like everybody else. Last thing I'm gonna fucking do. Because now inside of that same space, use that as an example. You got a homeboy, you got a homegirl right now. They is out there getting shit. They getting shit. They out there getting it. They out there getting it. And they're not taking accountability. They're not taking accountability. They're not in the levels of accountability with themselves. That's what's triggering you. Their lack of accountability is what's getting them to where they're getting to, and your lack of taking accountability, your lack of taking accountability for your own perspective in order to see that as what it is, that's what has you stuck. So both of y'all are stuck looking at each other. I've used this example before. The motherfuckers on the bleachers are looking at the people running in the field, and the people in the field are dependent upon the people inside of the bleachers. But the coach, the owner, don't give a shit. The coach and the owner don't give a shit. The owner don't care. The owner already owns the stadium. The owner already owns the stadium. The owner already owns the team. So he already has his percentages in play. The owner already has their percentages in play, what they get from each player, management, legal. He already has everything built in. He already has a structure already built to where he doesn't have to worry about the motherfuckers in the stands, the motherfuckers that are playing. And it seems like, and then we'll get stuck in there, but like, yeah, the NFL don't give a fuck. The NFL's the new slave owners. The NFL's the new slave owners in all the aspects. What is everything but emotion? What is everything but fucking emotion? Everything's being played down here based on emotion. So if you sit there and you look at the motherfucker that's down there on the fucking field, that nigga's playing his heart out, and you in the stands screaming your heart out, the owner automatically sees the bird's eye view and gets paid off both ends. If I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God, look at Shorty over there. And these bitches out, the women out here keep talking about the aspects. They want a traditional man. They want a man like their grandfather. They want a man like the grandfather from back in the day. the uncle, they dad from back in the day. And then it gets even deeper. I ain't never had no dad, so I got daddy issues. So then I'm going to make a whole fucking song singing my emotions about having daddy issues. Because somebody's going to validate this and make this okay. And then I'm sitting there with my own fucking mother issues. Wishing that my mother was a certain fucking way. That's why I feed from that. I need that. I need that to feed my identity. Because I'm not ready to accept every character. I'm not ready to accept my character flaws. The flaws and the weaknesses of myself. I'm not ready to accept that yet. And until I'm ready to accept that, I need that. I need that to be playing out in my life. I need that to play out every single day up and down my timeline. I need it to play on my YouTube channel. I need it to play up and down my news feed. All over. I need that shit to be around me so I can feel something. I need that impulse. I need to keep attracting shit. Because I haven't learned how to align myself. I haven't done the deep. I've not went deep enough inside of myself to understand the original point of alignment with myself. So then you just keep getting stuck and stuck and stuck over and over and over again. You keep looking for reasons to prove yourself. You keep looking for the reasons for drama to be inside of your life. You keep looking for a reason for somebody to be there. Why are you here? Why are you here? You know why they're there. And you just ask that question, you're going to get the reason why they're there. They were a part of your avoidance. They're a part of you avoid. They were a construct of your avoidances. They were a construct of you're trying to escape from everything. They were a construct of you trying to validate that you're a good person. They were a construct that you put together for you to be who the fuck you were inside of that space. That's what the fuck they were. That's what they served as. But the moment that you actually start doing the real work with yourself, and you like, oh my God, like, I can't stand this motherfucker. You gotta own that. You can't keep going through your life going like, oh my God, I hate this person because of this, this, and this. Because that definition of hate is the inversion of the love that you don't have for yourself. The inversion for me to hate someone and to now know the definition of hate is simply the fear or the lack of understanding or the lack of applied information. Why do I have a reason to hate anybody? So every time that I yell, I hate this nigga, even if you say it in a tense, I hate that nigga, I hate that bitch, I hate these people, I hate that, I hate this, I hate that they do this. All I'm saying to myself in the aspects of inverting, in the aspects of me inverting that information, is I'm telling myself that there's an aspect of myself that I not understand and I'm not ready to deal with. Why do I keep attracting this into my inbox? Why do I got all these niggas in my inbox? Every time I post a picture about myself, I post a picture of myself looking good in my sundress. Why did you post a picture about you being in that? Why did you post a picture of you being in the sundress? The real reason. Not the surface reason that you keep trying to convince yourself, I was just feeling good about myself and da-da-da-da-da. What was the true reason behind it? You upset because every shorty you upset in that same instance, you'll be the same one to be upset that your man, that some chick put hearts under, you still going through a post inversion of when that nigga, when you was with that dude and that chick put hearts under his post and he said that she was just a friend. You haven't dealt with that yet. Or you haven't dealt with the fact that that dude that was putting all those quotes under your girl picture at that time, you ain't dealt with that yet. Because you keep inverting it to keep that identity intact so you can be like, yeah, any man would do that. Any man would protect this chick based on that narrative. I don't own shit. I don't own anything but me. You're letting yourself know that you are possessive. And then you'll validate it. You'll look for the validation. And then that's when you get stuck in that alpha mentality. Yeah, alpha protect this shit. I'm an alpha female. I'm independent. Okay, cool. That's nice. You are in the third state of. You are in this third frequent. You are scientific. You're brain dead. Because when I read the information about anything under 35 megahertz is brain dead, and the alpha wave state is at like 25 hertz. That's a brain dead state. What happened? Now you got to think about, now look at zombies and shit. What is a zombie? Whenever you look at a zombie movie, what does a zombie do? All they live for is to eat, and they have very little memories of their past and shit. All they remember is to eat and live. They got 3 basic functions. So then you start looking at a lot of the shit that you looking at. Everybody's arguing over who's going to take care of the basic functions. So when you think about Earth is ghetto, motherfuckers have not gotten past the point of the basic function of what Earth is. That's all that when I look at them, like, that's what it means. Motherfuckers don't understand the basic functions of what this shit is. They don't really know. They haven't accepted what it is. Because they have so much emotional baggage, so much emotional debt, so much of this emotional, they haven't got out of their manhood, their mankind yet. They cannot let go of ideals and patterns. So they cannot come into their state of empathy, so they can come into the state of being in that higher state of themselves. Because you keep getting stuck in, every time that I'm doing my work and some good shit starting to happen in my life, yay, I can stop right here. I'm not trying to stop. The thing that I told myself is, I'm not trying to stop. But I'm not forcing myself to go. That was the key. I'm not trying to stop, but I'm not forcing myself to go somewhere where I don't need to go. I'm not forcing myself into positions anymore just to validate myself. I'm not forcing myself to do certain things. If you were rocking with, you saw most of my lives from last year on my YouTube channel, I went through a whole fucking year. I didn't cut my fucking hair. I went through a whole fucking year. No haircut. No fade. No haircut. Nothing. No haircut. I was in straight hermit mode. Wake up, drop a live, do some work, go back in the cave, chill out. I knew it was not a time for me to be outside. I knew I wasn't supposed to be going outside. But as you looking at this, if you looking at right now, when you use the aspects of this year, haircut, I'm getting deeper into aspects of these subjects. I'm more focused. It's because I understood that I understood what phase I was in. I understood I had to define that character. I understood that every time I sent out an avatar of Papa Lucifer, that was an avatar that I sent out to go get some information. I had to send, all right, go out, go do what you need to do. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever human shit happens, it happens. Come back. All right, come back, return. All right, good. We got the information. Let's go to the next level. Let's do the next shit. But I've built to a certain point. And I'm continuing to build and I destroy shit. When you stuck in that mindset of still trying to make other things, still trying to keep the aspects of your past, or still trying to use old narratives to define yourself, that's when you become a resource. That's why most motherfucking niggas are resources. That's why they can put up melanin's so much a gram. I forgot how much it is a gram. They can say melanin's this much a gram and you get triggered because you still inside of that space. Instead of you using like, yeah, nigga, I'm worth it. Nigga, I'm priceless. Nigga, you see how much we worth now? You see how much you worth now? In a physical sense? In that one aspect? And you keep saying that your ass, and you keep telling yourself, man, I don't feel like I'm worth it. I don't feel like I'm worthy. I don't feel like I'm valued. Motherfucker, they keep giving you your values every single fucking day of what they value based on you being a resource, i.e. you being a liability to yourself. You are an asset to everybody that you are. You are an asset as long as you are a liability to yourself. A liability is the lack mindset, not taking accountability for yourself. So you will always be an asset to everybody else. So as long as you're in liability mode, guess what you created? You create more liabilities. I.e. identities and the constructs of your identities. If I'm thinking from a lack mindset, then every thought that I have and everything that I produce is based off lack. So in order for me no longer to produce or work through the aspects of lack, guess what has to fall away first? Everything that I built based on lack. That means the conversation with family members is going to be heavy. The conversation with family members, if you have kids and family members and the old job and all that shit you built based on lack. That's all it's telling you. That's why it's triggering you. But you trying to avoid that aspect of, I built that lifestyle off of lacking something with myself. Now that I do not no longer want to come from a space of lack, I got to own what the fuck's about to fall apart. I got to own what's about to be taken away from me. It's not being taken away from me. It's being, I need that to be removed. You got to change. I had to understand that I had to change that definition of myself. I had to understand that I had to change the definitions that I was using to define my identities and exalt those aspects. I had to step out of that narrative of that shadow with myself where I was like, yo, I'm willing to fight and I'm a fighter and I'll bust heads. And instead of me saying and to comfort myself and be like, I don't go there because I know how I am, I had to own who I was. Every time that I said that to myself, I was denying an aspect of me. I am still very deadly with the hands. Very deadly with my hands. But I'm not denying myself that factor of myself. I'm being honest. And the only reason I learned how to prove myself of being these hands being deadly was because I lacked passion in myself. Now that I have the passion, I've taken that same identity, that same characteristic, and I've exalted it. I'm still deadly with my hands. I used to hate typing. I can type like a motherfucker now because I'm unlocked that aspect of myself and took it out of that space. I've told motherfuckers in the tantric class that I'm teaching on Saturdays, 2 classes left. I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, I'm a sex worker. I'm a sex worker. I'm a sex worker. I'm a sex worker in the exalted state of sense of myself. Do I make you feel some type of way? Yes, I do. Do I make you feel some type of way in your heart area? Do I make you feel some type of way inside of your body? Do I know how to move your energy around to help you produce new perspectives? Yes, I do. What does a sex worker do? What does a stripper do? What does a sex worker do? You go in there and you forget where the fuck you at and you stuck inside of a fantasy in a new perspective so you can relax. What do I do as a therapist? You come into the space, it's a safe space so you can relax, so you can speak to things, so everything can naturally come up to the surface and we can have a conversation about it. What's the difference? I had to exalt that aspect of myself. Because until I did this aspect, that would still be available in that world, that aspect of myself. I would still need a reason to be inside of that space using the old identity of myself of trying to attract something into my life. I'm not in attraction anymore. I'm in alignment. So everything that comes into my space is based on it being in alignment. That's not saying I'm not still attracting certain things, but when things are coming into the space based on attraction, and I understand it's like the light, it's like a light body coming into my space, or it's a darker aspect coming into my space, I look at it, I'm like, oh, I know what that is now, why it's coming into my space. I can work with it. I can work with it where it's at. I'm not trying to make it anything else. I ain't trying to, no. I'm not trying to glamorize it or nothing, because I'm not glamorizing that part of my life anymore. I'm not glamorizing the part of my life when I was out there doing some fucking extraordinary shit. I've exalted that aspect to do extraordinary, take that energy and I put it into this space. Because I've exalted that character. I've venerated that character. I've venerated that ancestor aspect of myself. Because it's an aspect of one of my ancestors anyway. How many times can you sit there inside of a space right now, your uncle, y'all sitting there and y'all, I hear motherfuckers all the time, thank my ancestors, thank my ancestors. If your ancestor, Uncle John, was out there slinging pipe to young girls, was slinging pipe to young girls, or your aunt, your aunt Gabriella was out there rocking young boys' mind, rocking young boys' worlds, and she passed. She's transitioned. And now, in your current state, you have this fixation for older men, or you have this fixation for older women. You have this uncontrolled urge for older women being attracted to you, older men being attracted to you, all of this aspect. And you don't know why. You don't know why. But you validated it, or you rationalized it to you rationalized it to your needs. So you're saying older women are the mother figure, so you never had a mother aspect. You never had, your mother wasn't the mother that you wanted. She wasn't really nurturing or really emotionally there. So the older women in your life seem to be real nurturing inside of your life, even though they're your mother age. Or the older men inside of your life, they seem to be inside of your life and they real nurturing. They give you the bag, they give you some money. Here, take this, whatever. But you don't know why you always feel the need to validate it. You always feel the need to validate it. By invalidating the young niggas ain't shit or the young hoes ain't shit. But you didn't venerate your ancestor, your Uncle John, or your Aunt Gladys, your Aunt Gladys, for her you glamorizing it. I put a glamour on it. And then you go forward. Now you go forward. Now you inside of your new space and you got your new life and all this shit. But now, those same old niggas, because you're not young anymore. So the old niggas ain't looking at you. Think about the world you created. Now inside of your space, those older niggas are looking at your daughter. Those older women are looking at your boys. Whose fault is that? Instead of the reaction of, oh my God, yeah, all these pedophile ass niggas and pedophile ass bitches and all this shit, you completely forgot about that ancestor. You completely forgot about the ancestor that was out there slinging pipe and slinging coochie all out to them young ass boys and them young ass girls back in the day. You completely forgot that your mom was one of them young ass girls. That's a part of your story that you have not owned yet. You have not venerated it yet. So then it came up to you. On the other end of that, you became one of them young ass girls. You became one of them young ass boys. And then you just kept taking the cycle forward. See, when we're going into this aspect of really dealing with your shit, you have to normalize that conversation. The conversation cannot be based on comfort. It's the same way, think about it like this, and then go into a relationship. I've broken down the aspects. I'm going to break them down even further. I'm going to break them down tonight and sitting in the shadow. No, I'm going to break them down on Friday. This week, maybe. The aspects of the way that you're healing is going to be the same way that you rebuild this relationship with yourself is the same way you're going to build every other relationship. You're just now consciously doing it. I broke that shit down in the 4 phase. The courting phase, that's that gathering the information and setting the intentions and stating your intentions, stating what you are, stating the positives, stating inside of that state. Then there's the dating phase with yourself. That means you're dating. That means you're combining the masculine and the feminine aspects to see how they connect, and if the connection is actually there. Then there's that relationship phase. The relationship is the actual is the combining of the atmospheres and the tones that you set. Then there's the marriage. That's what you do inside of your healing process. I've been through my courting phase. I've been through my dating phase. I've been through my relationship phase. I've been married to myself ever since August 16th, 2021. So I'm in a unified sense. So everything that comes to me is going to be everything that comes to me now is based on the alignment of me testing me of my unified sense. Nothing's coming into my space anymore that's based on something not being unified. Not being unified, not wanting to learn how to unify themselves or come into that space. Everything that attracts into that space in the subsurface of that, on the surface level, that's things that they got to do. They're in that. I understand what season I'm in. And when I just broke those down, that's the 4 seasons. Courting, that's that winter. Courting's the winter time. Courting's the springtime aspect for some people. Your courting may be in the spring, the blooming, the budding, the spring cleaning, the new space, the new you aspect. Then you go into the aspects of the summertime. That's the dating phase. That's using everything that you learned in the courting phase and applying it to the summer. That's when we look at the human aspect, the summer body, kids are out of school and things of that nature. You're applying those mechanics. Then you go into that nice little dating phase. That was the dating, the relationship, the dating. Now you in the relationship phase. That's the fall. That's falling into the sequences. That's descending. That's taking away the control. That's allowing the control to fall away. That's allowing yourself to actually fall into that space and go into that space. Then you go into that winter phase. This is where a lot of the dormancy comes from. Now you in the state of being dormant. Now you assessing your roots. Now you tending to the roots and tending to all the other shit. And then you come back out in the spring. You do it unconsciously every fucking time. You're trying to compare your seasons to the external season. You're not looking at the seasons from the internal sense. There's motherfuckers right now, they're in their winter. Most motherfuckers are in their winter, meaning they're in that hibernation phase. That means they're still trying to cling onto old aspects and everything from that last time with themselves. Well, last time this happened, the last time this happened to me, and last time this happened to me. Then there's motherfuckers, they're never going to be able to come into the space with the motherfuckers that are in their spring. They're never going to be able to align with the motherfuckers that are in, because they're not owning their season. Everything that you're doing right now inside of your space with yourself, where are you at with yourself in authenticity? Why are you so easily triggered by certain things and events? Why do you allow yourself, I'm still getting triggered from something happening in 2018. Work on it. I'm still being triggered from something that I'm still feeling sorry for myself. So you can't apologize to yourself. I just moved on. You can't move on. Won't happen. It can't happen. It won't. It can, but you've seen the results. You've seen the results. You've seen results. You've gathered enough information. You've gathered enough information. Most of my clients right now, they're in a state with themselves where they've gathered so much information that they're wondering why it isn't working anymore. And I'm telling them, around that same time I started talking about the aspects of intellectualizing your shit. You come to a point where you have to stop trying to intellectualize everything. Stop trying to rationalize and reason, bring rational logic to everything from the wounded perspective. You cannot keep sitting here saying shit like, oh my God, the reason niggas are where they're at is because of this, this, and this. Stop rationalizing that shit. Because all you're going to look for is a conspiracy theory and not apply to it. You'll apply around it, but you won't apply to it. Because you need that impulse. Without the impulse, I need to feel alive. So you're dead. Nah, I'm living. I'm a free spirit, and I'm out here just flowing, and I just let things happen. So you ain't got no plan. I don't believe in plans because the plan holds you back from embracing the moment. No, it don't. I got plans of execution for every moment, period. It's not me sitting there not being able to do anything. I have a plan naturally already playing for every fucking moment. So I can, inside of that space, I can accept the season that I'm in. Somebody hit me up and be like, hey, da-da-da-da-da. I'll be like, all right, cool, that's a nice idea. I'm not available for that right now. I know I'm not available for that right now. That's the ownership aspect. See, a lot of times we like to keep tricking ourselves into being like, well, if it's showing up, that means it's time for me to do it. That just means that works. If I had a kid with this, if I'm having kids, I've had kids before. Sorry, that just means your pussy work. Man, that's short. I've lived with people before. Sir, that just means your bank account has money in it. That's all it means. You haven't done or created the system for it, or whenever it happens, you wouldn't be, and I'm going to explain this, you would not be in a state of jumping at it. You can walk into it. It's kind of like, use the example of, if your routine, if your routine doesn't match the reality of the space that you're trying to go into, it's time to change your routine. That means, use an example. For me, Monday, lined up the beard. Probably tomorrow sometime, or probably Friday, I'll cut my hair or whatever. That's not for anybody. That's not for anybody. I'm not doing it to be like, yeah, I gotta look good for certain. I gotta, what the fuck? But it's already a natural part of my routine to do. So I'm not doing it based on, and this is when you got to get out of that aspect that I don't feel like doing it. You haven't become it yet. The idea of what you're trying to become is based on for. That's when we go into the idea, we can get deeper. We're going to get deeper into this tonight on my TikTok. When you think about an aspect of like this nature, think about this. I'm not doing anything for anybody. Everything that I do is naturally based on, everything that I do is genuine based on what I am. Somebody's reaction to what I do does not change the genuineness or the genuine aspects of what I do inside of that space. That means that I will never overwork myself naturally. I will never overthink naturally. I won't have to worry about, oh my God, I'm in a relationship, now I got to overthink. I'm in a relationship, now I got to be loyal. I'm in this and I got to do this. I got to remove that mentality. That's when I've broken down that 9-to-5 mentality. Remember, that 9-to-5 mentality is just not you going to work. That 9-to-5 mentality is a simple formula of, if I'm here and I do this much work, I deserve this. If I do this much, if I come as this, do this much work, I should get this much. I should get this much. That's 4. That's the 9-to-5 mentality. That's the 9-to-5 mentality. I no longer operate in the 9-to-5 mentality. Nothing that I do operates in the 9-to-5 mentality. Everything that I do is based upon me and service. Let's use the example. I have services. Use the example. I have services. My services dictate the work that I'm going to do. I dictate the work by the services that I provide. Whether I provide 5 consultations, 4 consultations, 3 consultations, no matter how many consultations I provide, it's based on the consultations and the work that I put in promoting the service, in promoting myself, being the aspects of the service, the examples of that set point that is going to bring in what comes into my space, as opposed to the 9-to-5 mentality where you're stuck in that state of being dependent. Like when I worked in restaurants, I needed motherfuckers not to want to be able to cook so I could go to work, so I could make money. What did that do on the other end of that spectrum? That meant when I got home, I didn't feel like cooking. My passion was dwindling. My passion dwindled. My desire dwindled. As the decline happens, my energy declines. Because I'm stuck within a space to where I'm dependent upon something externally giving me my drive or my motivation. For this, I'm doing that. For this, I'm doing this. For this, I'm doing that. So when I don't have to do this, now I have to create something for me to do on the other end. By the time I've done everything for all of this, by the time I come to me, I'm like, what do I want to do? But now I've created all of these I've created all of these focal points. I can't do that because I got to worry about this. And I can't do that because I got to worry about this. That's the aspects of the old structure. Before we get out of here, I'm going to say that on the aspect. Think about this. Everybody wants to say that you're trapped inside of a system. The system is a trap and Earth is a trap and all of this good shit. But did you ever think that since it is the feedback of your internal narrative, Earth is a feedback of my internal narrative, my relationships are feedback to my internal narrative, then if I keep saying Earth is trapped, there's a trap, if I keep saying Earth is ghetto and all this other bullshit, then that means somewhere inside of me, I'm trying to hold on to that ghetto narrative. I'm still trying to hold on to my hood card. I ain't been in the hood in decades. Literally, have not been in the hood in decades. Don't have to go there no more. This shit isn't appealing. The thing that I had to do once I stepped out of it was own the fact that I don't need to go there anymore. Can I still go there? Yes. Will I go there? Probably not. That's not based on validation or trying to invalidate. I'm not in a state of needing to validate myself. That's why the true reason I don't need to go there is because I'm not in a state of trying to validate myself. So now when I'm inside of this current state of confirming, I can say, oh shit, nigga, I've grown. I've grown a lot. I'm not in the same space. I'm not doing the same bullshit that I used to do. So now slowly that shit fades away. Because I don't have access to it anymore. As I've said this before, you're not afraid of losing control. You're afraid of the accountability. That honesty. If you really take that honest look and you really sit there with yourself, you take that honest look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, I have been bullshitting. You take that honest approach to yourself. You understand the purpose of validating or venerating those character flaws. Venerating all of that shit. Owning the aspects of your story. As I promised, coming out soon is the first of the 4 ebooks that I will be dropping. This first book is 30 Days of Deprivation. If you haven't seen the picture that I put up, that's one cover that I'm thinking about using. 30 Days of Deprivation. It is literally going to be 30 days of 30 days of deprivation, reprogramming the shadow. I'm taking the shit that I learned from my first fast, my first 30-day fast, and going through the process of my first 30-day fast and everything that I applied to the 30-day fast, and I created the prompts. You may be familiar because the prompts that I posted up last week, the 12 days of self-discovery, those are the first 12 prompts. But I've redone the prompts in a way to where I added an exercise to every prompt. So for 30 days, it's like, so for basically 12 days, you're going deep inside of yourself. And then the next 8 days, you're sitting inside of that space. And then the next 10 days, you're coming up out of that space. But as I always say, the shit healing is destructive because it's not a one and done. The book that I'm putting together is not, oh my God, I completed 30 days of a fast. I'm free. I'm done with my shadow work. I'm done with my healing. Ha ha ha, you fooled your goddamn self. This book is meant for every time that you go back and use this tool, that you're going to get a different result. Because we got to get really used to using the tool and accepting the results from using that tool. And that takes that really being honest and getting deep in with yourself. So stay on the looks for that. Everything with me, from services, from the consultations, readings, setting up sessions, all the other good stuff, even the asking me about other services that I do provide. Don't afraid to hit me in the inbox. I hit the link up here. It'll take you straight to the page where you can book that session. What else? Also, proud to announce, Occult Alchemy, the clothing store. I'm waiting on my box of my stuff. I'm waiting on the box of my stuff to come in. Occult Alchemy, the store is fully back open. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna be pushing out a couple of new designs and new prints that I put out on different shit. The links are up here. Occult Alchemy is above this, directly above it. The link to getting in my inbox, that's going directly to my inbox, is up there too. And the link to the Cash App for that donation to that aspect, or I will be doing, yeah. I desire you to be the fucking best. I desire you to be the motherfucking best, because I desire that of myself. I cannot desire any more of others than I desire them from myself. You have to understand that this healing shit is destructive. You are deserving, but you are not entitled. And this level of honesty is going to take you all the way up outside of your comfort zone. I'm Papa Lucifer Samdi, your occult therapist, your shadow shaman. Thank you for stopping through. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm about to go get back to writing on. I'm about to go get back to writing on this book and setting up the rest of my day. I love you. We love us. Ashe.